Hello everyone, this is Christian Maldex Interactive, and in this video we're going to talk about communication between parent and child or children components. And so we'll start off with a very simple case of passing data and updating that data on the parent and having that reflected within the child. So that's this basic view. Next, we're going to see how to handle responding to events within the child. So that an event happens within the child needs to notify the parent that this event has occurred. So we'll see how to handle that. Finally, we will do the opposite. So an event takes place in the parent, and the parent needs to notify the children to respond to that event. And so we'll take care of that. And those three things are what we're going to see how to do within this video. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started here. So just as an overview, what we have here is a parent component and a child. So of course the child is contained within the parent. Right now we just have a little bit of styling using Tailwind CSS, and we have a child component, so nothing going on, no data, no props, nothing, right? Alright, so let's start with, so the first bit of communication, of course, is just the easiest, which is just passing data from a parent to a child. So let's start off in the child here, and inside of here we'll just create a div and we'll just interpolate a parent message, and we're going to need to pass that parent message into our child here. So let's give our message proper stuff. So we'll put a default and undefined. What is it? Private, read-only, parent message. Let's type it string. Let's go ahead and save that. Refresh to get everything started. So our child now is expecting this message from the parent. So let's go into our parent here. On this, we'll put an input, a little bit of styling to make it easier to see here. Margins and padding. So we'll do vModel. This vModel will be a parent message property on our parent here. And let's just, so we know that everything is working and it's updating and we can see everything. Let's just interpolate on the parent message. And while we're up here, we're going to not forget to vbind. And the parent message is the parent message. Perfect. And now we just need to have that on our class. So we have a private parent message and parent starting message. Perfect. Save that, and we have our parent starting message. So we have our input, the interpolation within the parent, and the interpolation in the child. So now if we update our message in the parent, it's getting updated everywhere. So that's our first bit of communication, right? The simplest. What Vue is designed to do is update whenever it needs to update, right? So now let's say for instance, so a lot of times I run into this issue is I have, say, like a list of items, and inside of those items there's something that needs to be modified, whether it's the name, description, quantity, price, something, right? Something needs to be updated, and so what I usually have is the child will take care of all of the updating, right? So let's go to our child here, and what I need is, let's go up into our template here, and we'll do a div, make it flex, so we'll have them in a row here, a little margin on the bottom, so we'll put an input in here. I think I should have just made a style for input so I wouldn't have to keep typing stuff, but let's let's make the model for this one child message. Perfect. Let's make a button. I did make a button class, so I don't have to type that stuff. V on, click, prevent. So we prevent, so save, put some text in to make it easier to see. And so now inside of our child class here, we need to deal with the method, right? We want to tell basically the outside world, in this case the parent, that hey, we've just updated something, right? So we're saving. So what we'll do is we want to emit an event. So we have the $emit, the name of the event that we're emitting, and the payload, in this case, thing that I did not put on here yet, which is private child message, and the child message. So now we can emit this child message, call it a day, right? We can save that. So now we have our input there. Let's go ahead back to our parent and do something with this information. So what we need is to be notified. So we'll say v on, save was the name of the event. We're going to create a save method here. So private save. We're going to be passed in the message from the event, which is going to be of type string. And this parent message will now be the child message. Let's go ahead and save that. Now if we click the save button, the message, the child message, is getting passed up to the parent. It's updating the parent, which then view is updating down here in the child. So everything is now communicating back and forth for us. And so then when we have a message, let's say for instance here, what we want, a lot of times what I want is, so if I have a list of these children and inside of this parent, I may want a button in the parent which I can use to reset all of the children to some default state, right? In this case it's going to be to clear the message, but it could be something else, right? So let's take care of that. Let's go back into our child here. Now you could pass a string around or create a message or a method for each button. You know, it's up to you. I'm particularly fond of enums, so we'll do an enum commands, and we'll have a none, and we'll have a clear. All right, so now we have that. What we're going to do is expect. So how are we going to do this, right? So the parent, there's a button in the parent, you click on that button. We need to have a way to notify the child that that button has now been clicked. There's no default way of updating the child related to an event that happens on the parent. So we'll just use what we've already done here related to the data. So we'll pass a prop in. And we'll set the default for it to be commands dot none. So that's the default. So we'll have a private read only, maybe read only command, and type is commands. Perfect. Okay. So now what our intention is going to be, click that button. It updates the binding in the parent. And view could then update the child's command here. Thing is that we're not rendering anything related to it, so it's not really going to do anything. So what we want to do is to watch for changes. So we'll come up here and bring in our watch here, come down, private, and I just called it watch command. It's not going to watch without using the directive here. And what are we watching? The command data there. And inside of here, we'll just do a switch, this .command. So we have the case of commands.none. In that case, console log. And in there, nothing to do. Break case commands dot clear. And in here, we'll just say this dot child message is the empty string break. Okay, so we can save that. We put a default there, so it won't give us an error. So now we should be good to go on the child side of things. So now we have to hop back over to the parent. So while here, let's bring in the commands enum. And, okay, I guess actually in the template here as well, let's create us a button, which I guess it's right about here. Button class on it, the margin on the bottom. So v on click, prevent, and clear children, and clear. So we have the button there. What we need is to come down into our class here again and put in private child command. We'll start off with commands.none. We need our method, private clear children. And we'll say this dot child command equals commands dot clear. Okay, so now we'll start off with none. We go to clear, and so Vue is going to say, okay, I've seen an update. Let me pass that change along and update everything. Now, of course, if we want to be able to press this button again, we're going to have to return to commands.none so that the next time you press it, it changes, she sees a change again and updates. So if we try this, though, we'll even refresh for good measure. If we click on the clear, nothing is happening. And nothing is going to happen because we're switching to clear, then we're switching back to none. We start at none, and Vue says there's no update, so nothing happens. So what we need to do is sort of postpone this, changing back to none. And since we're doing it in relation to rendering, what we're going to do is request an animation frame. And inside of there, we are going to then change it back to none. So now if I hit clear, still nothing happens because I'm an idiot. And so we need to bind the command to the child command. Now we save it. Now we clear, message goes away, and even in the console we see nothing to do because we've now changed it to clear. The Vue is taking care of letting the child know that it's changed. It runs that switch. That switch says clear the message. The next animation frame we change to none, does the same thing, goes through the switch, and console logs nothing to do. So now we have a way to use basically everything built in Vue in order to say some event happens on the parent, and we can use that to update the child or children. Now we can take it a step further. Maybe we don't want to do this, and we want to take a little note of how RxJS basically does things, or at least the idea. I don't know the internals of it. So let's go into our components file here, and I'm going to create a new file, and I called it, cleverly enough, observable.ts. All right. So now in our observable TS here, we're going to start by aliasing a type. So we'll have a type called a subscription. The subscription is a generic type, and what it is, it's a function that takes in some input of type T and does something with it, but it emits nothing. So now we'll export a class, we'll call it observable of type T, and we're ready to go. What we'll do, in order to keep track of what we need to call back, we'll have a callbacks array here. So we'll have an array, and that array will contain subscriptions of type T, And we'll start off, of course, with an empty array. We need a way to add subscriptions. So we'll say subscribe, subscription, type, subscription of type T. So this .callbacks.push, and just push in that subscription. Now we'll need to know, we'll have a way to say, hey, we need to let all of the subscribers know that they need to do something. Or, you know, we, the observable, need to call the callbacks. So public next, we need our input, which is of type T. And then we just do callbacks for each. And we have, now these are functions, so we put functions acting on the input. So now we have our little basic observable. We're good to go there. Let's go into our child here. We import it. Components, observable, perfect. Now we come down here. I'm actually going to get rid of the command here so we don't confuse with anything. So this will just be now observable, and its type, it's going to be set for us, and it's going to be a type of observable commands. Perfect. So we can actually get rid of the watch now. We don't need the watch, so let's get rid of that. We're going to call this, instead of watch, we'll call it run command. Just because I'm OCD here, we'll put it up there. So now what will happen is we'll be passed a command. And so that's what we'll run the switch on. We're going to save that here in a second because I do not have a default value, and it will then throw an error on me. So let's come into the parent here. Matter of fact, thank you, child. Let's grab this into the parent and import the observable. So on the parent here, we'll no longer need a command. Let's get rid of that, and we'll say observable. And that observable is now a new observable of type commands. Perfect. In our clear child, we need to clear children. We need to just say this dot observable dot next, and in now commands dot clear. So in this case, we will not have to worry about switching back to none because we're not using views mechanics to drive it. Right? We don't have to worry about view realizing that something needs to be updated. We're doing it ourselves by just updating once a button is clicked. So now we need to change this to observable. Same with this. Observable. Let's go ahead and save them all. Refresh for good measure and do nothing. Oh yeah, clear button here. So if I clear it, what I'm expecting, of course, is the message to clear. And of course, it does not happen the way I want it to happen. So what have I done here? Observable. Oh, did I? Geez. One day we'll make it through something without having to realize I forgot something. So how's it going to know? How does it know that something has changed? We have the observable, so of course we don't have any errors coming in. But what we need to do is on mounted, we'll say this dot observable dot subscribe, and we're subscribing. What do we want? This dot run command, right? So that's our function that takes in a command and returns nothing. So now if we hit clear, the message goes away. Nothing prints in the console because we're never issuing the none command. It doesn't really make sense to issue the none command. It's sort of just a default. But so that takes care of all the communication that I want to do it for this video anyway. Of course, one other main one that we'll be able to do, unless I think of others, is, of course, using a change of state. So we'll get around to doing sort of in-depth things with Vuex. So if I click on that button, issue an action, changes the state. Anybody who cares about it can watch for changes of the state and then do something related to it. But of course, again, that'll wait for another video. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch the video, and I will talk to you later. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video. I know that your time is valuable. If you liked the video, please subscribe to our channel and click the thumbs up button, as well as share the video with your friends. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments section below. And once again, thank you, and I will talk to you in the next video.